Anything with an engine has always fascinated me. From the time I was old enough to hold a screwdriver, I was taking things apart. At 15, I got my first car, and my love for automobiles hasn't stopped since. I guess you could say I've had an affair with every car I've owned, and there have been many. I always have something on the go in the shop, and I want to share what I've learned with you. We're hitting the road to talk to people who collect, restore, preserve anything on wheels. So let's go!
I'm Dirk Burrowes of Classic Drive Television. I'm here with Nick Grewal at the Vintage Racing Stables, and we've got an important announcement to make. Nick and I are going to be doing the Peking to Paris Rally, started back in 1907. So join us on this trip as we tell the story. Back with Nick, and you know, we're talking about our Peking to Paris rally. And Nick, tell us about this. Why the rally? What is it about? Why do it?
Well, first of all, Dirk, welcome to Samberton, to this little farm and the Vintage Racing Stable. Really great to have you here. And it's really great to actually have you join me on this Peking to Paris thing. I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
You know, I think, ultimately this is about fun, but, it's a lot of preparation. There's been a couple of years you've now spent on getting this car prepared and thinking through things, and while I've come in near the end, even the parts that I'm playing, there's a fair amount of logistics involved. But, for people who don't know what the Peking to Paris rally is, tell us about it. Start. Why?
No, absolutely. Let me go back a little bit, okay? When I was a kid at college, I used to hear about all these long-distance rallies. I mean, I always loved the, circuit racing, just, doing stuff, hill climbs, things like that when I was a kid.
Sure.
And you go out and watch this stuff. And then when I was at college, I started to hear about these big rallies that people were doing, London to, Sydney, Cape Cod, down South Africa, right. Things like that, and then there were things like Dakar, rally, which happens, every year, and it's one hell of a rally, and you see a lot of people actually get involved in that, but unfortunately here in the U.S. we haven't really been too involved with that stuff. It's really a shame, because I hope that kids will get involved with this rally, and get interested in cars as well as what it takes to actually do a rally like this, because it's a real challenge. Even though the modern day rallies are well prepared and so on. But nonetheless, you still have to go through, the heat and the cold, and making sure the car stays together, you stay together, your spirit stays together. It's a neat thing to do, and there are people that really enjoy that.
Well, for 12,000-mile rally over a 36-day period, there is an awful lot of preparation. And so for people who don't know about it, it actually starts in Peking, which is actually modern-day Beijing, right?
Yeah, right.
And so the rally starts there and goes a few days into Mongolia. We actually drive into Mongolia.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely. I think this rally actually goes through all kinds of desert, mountains, and you can get lost. There's no signs there. The next sign might be 1,000 miles away. So if you take the wrong turn, you're kind of a little stuck. And you may not actually get there for another couple of days. I mean, it's if you take a wrong turn. So it's really important to be prepared. But the interesting thing, Dirk, is that the first rally for your viewers actually took place in 1907. I think it was over 25 cars that entered. 1907, if you remember, the cars were archaic, and in those days, people actually, the newspapers and, the industry moguls actually put up prize money. So the first prize money on this 1907 Peking to Paris car was 2,000 francs. Right. In those days, it was an amazing thing. So you go out there and get this, and So as it turns out, less than 10 cars actually turned up in Peking for that race in 1907.
And just to get there.
Yeah, and the car that won was a prince, and he decided he's going to enter the car. It was an Italian prince, so the car was Ital,
Right.
And what happened was, he actually entered the race, but guess who the driver was? He took his chauffeur with him. So, Dirk, I'm really glad that you chose me as your chauffeur.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So we're starting in Peking. We're having to prepare. We're having to ship the car over in March. There's a lot of preparation. We're going through nearly 11 countries to get through there, all land-based.
Right.
We have 7 days that we're in a tent in the desert, essentially. Right. And then there's accommodations along the way and a day or two of rest. But for all practical purposes, this is a race.
This is a race, and I must admit, it was probably about 10 years ago or so. I said, you know what, this would be a neat thing to do, And then I started saying, okay, I think we're going to do this race. Let's see what car we'll pick.
Right.
Okay, I mean, that's where it started, and then I started researching what are people really bringing, and there were all kinds of things. There were Bentleys, Rolls Royces, and even an Aston DB6 has run the race, and I can't imagine some of the other stuff that has run. Actually, this year, believe it or not, one of my friends is bringing a 1910 steam car, and he happens to live in Connecticut. So, and there's going to be a bunch of American guys doing this. So it's not just us. If you follow us, it's going to be a bunch of people that you're going to be, rooting for. It could be a Connecticut car, it could be a New Jersey car, or it could be, in our case, it's a New Hampshire car, or call it Boston car. I don't care. It's our deal kind of thing. Yeah. So when I started this business of actually, I looked at the cars that were like 30s cars were the best prepared, because in the 30s the roads in America and a lot of other places were not really great roads.
No.
So we're going to be doing and recreating that in a way, because we're going to go through places that have no roads, they have no bridges. So we're going to be going through rivers and stuff. Absolutely. And so you have to pick a right car. So I basically said, most people go for Fangio car. And Fangio learned his racing back in the 40s in 30s cars built very much like this Packard. So the car happened to be a Chevy. So I ended up.
So the first car you started with a Chevy.
Chevy. I brought the Chevy, and then I started looking at the Fangio car and saying, what the hell did he do? And going through all the detailed pictures of it, you know, how they cut the fenders so that the mud doesn't get caught in the wheel wells and things like that. So, you know, and then when the car arrived, you know, it was a car out of California. You know, beautiful Chevy, 1937, I think it was. Beautiful Chevy, and I was sitting there in this shop saying, you know, we're going to have to cut this car up. And as a car guy, I kept saying, this car has made it all this way, and now we're going to cut it up. I just can't do it, you know. So you know, so I ended up selling the car to a gentleman out of Connecticut who still has the car, enjoys it, takes it to shows and stuff, because it was that nice a car. So, and then I said, well, you know, a lot of people have run the Chevys. What else can we do that is just as strong and really a great car for this event? Because as we said, it's going to go through some pretty grueling times. It's going to go through hell and back. Yeah, excuse the pun.
That's right.
But anyway, so we ended up looking at cars at that time that had amazing reputation in the 30s and 40s. And one of them happened to be Packard. And then I looked up and I said, Packard has never run. So I found this Packard in Oregon, brought it over. The old number plate is still up on the wall somewhere. You know, brought it over and went over and started talking with Jim Lowry, Lowry's Auto, and sort of started discussing what we ought to be doing.
This is about 2 years ago now,
That was probably over 2 years ago. Probably more like 3 or 4 years ago, you know. Yeah, so the car's been around. So 2 years ago, we actually started to actually say, okay, we're going to start this project because 1919 is coming. I remember doing this thinking that 2016, which was the last race, we're not sure we're going to be able to do this. So that's why the car's been around for at least 4 years.
We'll be right back.
I'm Eli English, and you're watching Classic Drive Television.
Hi, I'm Mike from Evans Coolant. I'm here with Dirk Burrowes in his garage, and we just converted this 1949 Rover. And Dirk, now that we've permanently preserved this classic, what do you think?
Well, you know, it was simple, it was easy, just follow the directions that came along with the waterless coolant. And I'm looking forward not to having these kinds of problems with less than 500 miles on my Classic, gumming up and losing water pump. Mike, where can I find this?
You can find it pretty much anywhere, Amazon.com, Summit Racing, but I would start at evanscoolant.com.
Terrific. Hey, make sure to see the full episode of Classic Drive Television where we convert over the Rover to waterless coolant. Hey, we're back with Nick, and we're talking about getting the car prepared for Peking to Paris. When we were last speaking, Nick, we were talking about the car and you having some discussions with Jim at the restoration shop and some of the preparation you did in communicating and talking with other people who had done the run and people who had prepared cars for the run.
Right.
But you decided that between you and Jimmy, you were going to take the lead on sort of putting the car together, thinking about what it really needed and doing that research. So, you know, what did it take to get this car to the state?
Well, actually, you know, I went over to England, as I do from time to time, and found people that had done this thing, and also people that actually prepared these cars.
Yeah.
But, you know, part of the challenge is, rather than just giving it to somebody and saying, hey, you know, you've done this before, do it. I wanted to experience the actual preparation of the car.
Yeah,
that's just as much fun.
It's part of the event.
Right? You know, I mean, we're car guys, right?
Right.
So, you know, so I talked to my friends that had done it. You know, a fella had done it in a Rolls, and one of my friends, Lloyd, had done it in a 1959 Cadillac. So one of the things that you have to do is you actually have to decide whether you want a post-war car or a pre-war car. So I decided I think it'd be fun to actually do a pre-war car.
Yeah.
And, for the things that we discussed, a lot of people do it in post-war cars. I mean, a DB6 Aston Martin ran the car, and Minis run the race, and so on. So people run it in Porsches and things like that, which is great.
Right.
But doing a pre-war car is something a little more special.
Yeah,
so we ended up with this, and after talking to all these fellas, we decided that the type of tires we need, and the type of wheels we need, and all the stuff, to make sure that the suspension is good, to actually redo the entire suspension. So we had people that had splied springs or had done springs to people in the past for this particular event. So we went and said, can you actually build us, redo these springs for us? So we actually attached the springs, and the car sits pretty high up, and there's a clearance, because obviously you're on, in the middle of the night, we could be driving, you and I, in the middle of the night with rocks.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to see those rocks, and we just basically going to go and hopefully, and if you do hit a rock, we actually built a complete, what I call a roll bar under the car.
Yeah, it's been protected all the way underneath.
Exactly, exactly.
And some of the things you have to pay attention to, of course, is weight, because that's really your enemy when you're going 12,000 miles. You've got to carry spares. You've got to carry, of course, anything that you're going to need.
Right.
All your luggage. Everything is. Yeah. This is your home.
That's exactly right. So one of the things that we did was to actually. First process was to start lightening up the car.
Yeah.
So we started taking things off. Nice part about a Cadillac, a Packard, is that the seats were built like sofas, and they're really heavy.
So a lot of weight came out.
So a lot of weight came out. We lightened up the trunk, because we had to start creating room in there for extra fuel tanks, as well as spares for the car and the tools for the car, because if it breaks down, guess what? It's you and me, bud.
That's it.
So, then, we took the bumpers off, and in fact, the bumper of the car is actually a spare spring, because I heard, because of the rough terrain, the springs break. So you want to have a couple of springs.
That's right.
And you want to have a couple of wheels and tires, because one of the rolls actually went through almost 30 punctures during that run.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's where weight becomes an issue, because you can blow tires out.
Yeah.
Right.
So obviously, I think we're going to have to go on a little.
Yeah, we're gonna
get rid of the.
We're gonna have to lose a little weight personally here, I think.
Get rid of the winter fat from New Hampshire.
Yeah.
So anyway, but hopefully, we're going to be in great shape. I think the car, you would agree, is in pretty good shape. I think we've done all the prep we could, and that's all you can do, actually. And then after that, we have to be, agile enough to actually go out there and solve the problems. And this is what it's all about.
It is. It's the challenge of it all, to get through it and do it. And it's the thought processes that go into getting the car prepared, making sure you have the right spares, then appreciating her and treating her well, maintaining her along the way. Actually,
can I also mention here that I did talk to a number of people to actually do this rally with me.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. A number of people said, yeah, of course I want to do this. And then I looked at them and said, if the car breaks, this guy can't help me. So I came across Dirk, who happens to be just as bad or just as nutty car guy as I am, because every time I go there, he's under the car fixing something. So I wanted to make sure that we're actually going to be expecting the car to break. As much as preparation we've done, I'm expecting, and I think you are expecting, the car will break.
It's not if, it's when.
It's when. So we'll be down there, and I didn't want to be the only guy under the car. I think you and I will be under the car together and saying, hey,
we'll have to make sure we can fit underneath that car, but
yeah, right. No, you hold up the car, and
there you go.
I'll try and fix it. Well, either way, I think it's good. It's good to really have you, and I'm really happy with that decision. That I think, as things happen, whether it's navigation or it's where do we find the next, laundry or whatever,
Well, I'll be working on those laundry points. Anyway, we'll be back with more from Nick.
I'm Jim, and I'm from Lowry's Auto Restoration, and this is my crew, and you're watching Classic Drive Television.
Probably the most common question I get asked is, will Evans make my engine run too hot? The answer is no. Because Evans has such a higher boiling point and not create that steam vapor pressure internally, you're always going to have a constant liquid to metal contact to draw heat. Once a water-based coolant boils, it turns to steam. Steam's going to force the coolant out of the passages, and the metals will have no way to dissipate heat at that point in time. Your coolant system has to have coolant in there in order for it to work. Limp mode is typically based off of a water-based coolant. The reason being, when the engine gets too hot, the water is going to start to boil. So limp mode kicks in, reduces your engine power, so it reduces heat, and it will allow your cooling system to catch up to itself. Because Evans coolant has such a higher boiling point, and it's always going to remain in a liquid state, even if you hit the limp mode, you're going to be able to still run safely and efficiently.
I'm Dirk Burrowes for Classic Drive Television. I'm here at the Vintage Racing Stables looking at cars we didn't cover in the first season. So to see some of these vintage race cars and more, join us at Classic Drive Television.
Hey, we're back, and Nick and I are talking about the route we're actually going to take to through the whole race at Peking to Paris. But before we even get there, the car is quite an adventure to begin with. We're starting here in New Hampshire, huh?
Yeah. Well, we're going to be getting the car from here to New Jersey. The car's already done 1,000 miles already, by the way, for just testing.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that, it's good. You don't want to be doing the final screw down in
China.
on the race.
Yeah, that's right,
exactly.
yeah.
So, from here it goes to New Jersey and then gets shipped to China and arrives, actually we put it on the ship in March.
Right.
And, then it takes a couple of months to get to China and then finally arrive, I guess, middle of May in Peking. And then we will basically get on the plane and
fly over.
Yeah, right. Get over there, and then collect the car, and then assemble with all the other cars in the square next to the wall of China.
Yeah.
And then after that we get going. So the first 3 days are actually in China.
Right.
So, and then we'll get to the China-Mongolia border, and then we spend, I think, 7 days in Mongolia,
Yeah.
And then after Mongolia, we actually get into Russia. We go through the Ural Mountains. So that's going to be kind of interesting.
Yeah,
I wonder if we're going to see some gulags.
I hope not. Hope not.
Yeah, and then after we do the Russia bit, we go into Azerbaijan, and that's also going to be interesting because the architecture there with all the mosques and stuff is just amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so looking forward to.
It's a world tour. I mean, it's a world
absolutely,
tour.
Absolutely. And then we get out. We do, I think, 2 or 3 days in Azerbaijan, and then we get back into Russia.
Right.
And then drive towards Moscow. We don't actually go into downtown Moscow. I think we go north of it.
Sort of around it, yeah.
And then we end up in St. Petersburg. So I don't know whether you've been to Moscow or St. Petersburg. I went there, actually.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because I always wanted to do this Dr. Zhivago thing, get on the train.
There you go.
So this year I went there in January, and all of a sudden got on the train. So night journey in the train. So you actually doing this stuff, and there was not a speck of snow. But anyway, hopefully we'll have better experience this time when we actually drive from Moscow to St. Petersburg. And then after St. Petersburg, we go into Finland.
Yeah.
Just for a short trip. Okay, just where route actually goes. Yeah. It's interesting because this is a northern route. They've done all kinds of different routes.
Northern routes, yeah.
Yeah, this is probably in the modern era. This is probably the 30th race that they're doing.
Yeah.
So they've done routes through Afghanistan, through Iraq, through Turkey, Greece. That was like a southern route. So we're doing more of the northern route because for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And over the years, the route gets determined by the politics,
to a degree,
in the world, So I just hope that we have a really great relationship with some of those countries.
Yeah, that would be good.
Otherwise, you may have to come and rescue us, all you guys.
There you go.
So anyway, after Finland, we go into Lithuania.
Yep.
Estonia, Lithuania.
Right. Yeah.
Those countries, and then once we've done that, it's very short because it's little tiny countries actually. But then we actually go into Poland.
Yeah.
And after getting out of Poland, I think we go through Gdansk.
Right.
And so after Poland, we get into Germany, and then we'll be doing the Autobahn thing, and she'll be
geared right up.
She'll be geared right up.
That's right. We'll be pushing her to the limit. Yeah.
Exactly. And then after that, we get into Holland.
Yeah.
And then I believe we may actually touch a little bit of Belgium.
Yeah.
But then we get into France.
Right.
And then guess what?
It's Paris, baby.
Absolutely. And the whole point about this thing is, whenever you do something, whenever I do something, I want to imagine us. You want to imagine at the end, right? What you're doing that. So I can imagine, and hopefully all you guys will be with us when we actually arrive in Paris and drive up through the Arc de Triomphe, which is the finish line.
That's right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So and hopefully some of you can actually join us there. So that will be wonderful.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think the idea here is that people want to follow us through. That's why we're going to have some cameras on the car. That's why we're going to be trying to get regular feeds up for people to see where we're at, trials and tribulations.
Right.
We may see us underneath the car or rolling it back over. I don't know.
That's right. Or pulling it out of a river.
That's right. But
anyway,
like you said, you got to envision, the end goal. You got to envision, see the success. So we see that success.
I can see us driving through the Arc de Triomphe.
That's it.
So the rest of it is journey, and you've got to enjoy the journey. But the end is. Is the goal, right? That's the goal.
Well, in many ways, it is the journey, not the destination.
That's right. Exactly.
But, in this situation, it's not just simply driving. There's not going to be a route that we follow or a red line.
Yeah.
They give us GPS coordinates, and we've got to use a world GPS and use waypoints, and we've got very specific rules. We can't go faster than we're supposed to on routes.
Yep.
If we go slower, we don't make the checkpoints at the right time, we lose points. So to a great degree, winning this is really about a lot of small races because we've got waypoints every day. We've got
pretty much every day is a race.
Right. And some days we might not do as well. Other days we could do very well. But we've always got to pay attention because we can't be too late. We can't be too early. Right.
Well, if the car breaks down, then you may not get there till midnight or sometime in the morning. But hopefully we will actually take the time and upload the video for you guys, as well as everybody following us on Facebook and the other medias as well.
Sure.
So hopefully.
It'll be a great time, and I think
telling some good stories.
I think so. I think this is going to be an outstanding part of our season to really take everyone with us on the drive.
That's right. That's right. So once we've done the Paris, once we've gone through the Arc de Triomphe, there is a ball. And it's a pretty neat thing.
We'll probably have to shave for that, though.
You think so?
Yeah.
But anyway, once that's done, then the car gets picked up, and she comes back home to New Hampshire, and
we get her prepped for the next one.
hey, listen, there's a big world out there.
That's right.
We can go into the Andes. We can do, the forest of, Southeast Asia. That's what this car is all about,
That's all right.
So,
Well, the car's probably going to hold up better than we are.
God, I hope so.
So we're going to keep the adventure rolling here. We're going to let you know what we're doing as we do it. We're also going to be talking to Nick in future about some other cars and some other adventures. So come along for the ride with us on Peking to Paris as Nick and I rough it through.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah, we'll be looking out for you. Hopefully you'll be looking out for us.
All right, you got it.